The Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus. And the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So he told them this parable. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the wealth that will belong to me." So he divided his assets between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant region, and there he squandered his wealth in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that region, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that region, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? But here I am dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and get the fatted calf and kill it. And let us eat and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field, and as he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf because he has got him back safe and sound.' Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him. But he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command, yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your assets with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him.' And the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has come back to life. He was lost and has been found.'" The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus, and the Pharisees and scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So he told them this parable. Well, actually, he told them 3 parables. You might have noticed a few missing verses in the citation in your bulletin. The first, "Which of you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders and rejoices. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, 'Rejoice with me, for I have found my lost sheep.'" And the second, "Or what woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one of them, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, 'Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I had lost.' And then there was a man who had 2 sons. There's the parable of the lost sheep, the parable of the lost coin, and the parable of the prodigal son. This is perhaps a good time to remind ourselves that Jesus didn't speak with story titles any more than the Greek text of the gospel had subject headings. But beyond that, it also seems to me to move our attention away from another more striking contrast between these 3 stories. I don't think this is so much about the sheep or the coin or the son, the ones who get lost. Instead, I'm more drawn to the ones who do or maybe don't do the searching. First, the shepherd goes out of his way, leaving 99 sheep behind, risking his own life as much as theirs to find the one lost sheep. And then the woman does a deep clean of her whole house just to track down one missing coin when she still has 9 left. But the father in the next parable gives in to his younger son's demand for his share of the family wealth without so much as a second thought, and he seemingly lets him go, just like that. He doesn't go searching for his son. He stays home. Did he worry? Did he ever wonder what happened to him? Did he ever ask the neighbors, ask around if anyone had seen or heard from him? Did it keep him up at night, not hearing from him, wondering if he was okay? Did he wonder, did he ever think about them? It was the fall of 1983 when Henry Nouwen first saw the painting. You should have this in your bulletins if you want to look at it. By way of a reproduction poster in a friend's office, he writes, "I saw a man in a great red cloak tenderly touching the shoulders of a disheveled boy kneeling before him. I could not take my eyes away. I felt drawn by the intimacy between the 2 figures, the warm red of the man's cloak, the golden yellow of the boy's tunic, and the mysterious light engulfing them both. But most of all, it was the hands, the old man's hands, as they touched the boy's shoulders that reached me in a place I had never been reached before." About 3 years later, Nouwen found himself at the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, Russia, standing before Rembrandt's massive oil painting, 8 feet tall by 6 feet wide, taking in every last detail for hours on end. Nouwen's experience with this painting would later inspire him to write his own reflection on the parable it depicts. Later in his book, he says, "Often I have asked friends to give me their first impression of Rembrandt's Prodigal Son. Inevitably, they point to the wise old man who forgives his son, the benevolent patriarch. The longer I looked at the patriarch, the clearer it became to me that Rembrandt had done something quite different from letting God pose as the wise old head of a family. It all began with the hands. The 2 are quite different. The father's left hand touching the son's shoulder is strong and muscular. The fingers are spread out and cover a large part of the prodigal son's shoulder and back. I can see a certain pressure, especially in the thumb. That hand seems not only to touch, but with its strength also to hold. How different is the father's right hand? This hand does not hold or grasp, it is refined, soft, and very tender. The fingers are close to each other and they have an elegant quality. It lies upon the son's shoulder. It wants to caress, to stroke, and to offer consolation and comfort. It is a mother's hand. The father is not simply a great patriarch, he is mother as well as father. He touches the son with a masculine hand and a feminine hand. He holds and she caresses. He confirms and she consoles. He is indeed God, in whom both manhood and womanhood, fatherhood and motherhood are fully present. Of course, he worried. Of course, he wondered every day what happened to him. Of course, he asked the neighbors, "Have you heard anything?" Of course, it kept him up at night. Every night. How often had he looked out the window to maybe catch a glimpse of him? How many miles had he spent pacing along the property line, looking out into the horizon, hoping against hope? The father didn't go out looking for him like the shepherd after his sheep. He didn't tear apart the metaphorical house searching for him like the woman after her coin. But he saw him from a long way off. I like that image. Pastor Emmy Kegler writes, the father pacing the edge of his land, wrinkled hands shielding aging eyes, peering off into the distance where he last saw his son. He didn't go after him, but he didn't stop looking for him. He never stopped worrying. He never stopped wondering. He never stopped looking. Until the joyful, celebration-worthy reunion, without a second thought, he runs, throws his arms around him, and kisses him. Without letting him finish his rehearsed apology speech, did he even hear the opening line? He throws a party. Grace, in the most unexpected places, which, when you think about it, is kind of exactly how grace works. Deep theological truths like that can come to us by way of a biblical parable or by way of a 17th century painting. They can also come to us by way of our latest TV binge. In my case, this past Friday, with all 10 episodes of Mid-Century Modern on Hulu. Anyone else? Oh, got one hand behind the organ. Mid-Century Modern is a new show which just came out on Friday, so yes, I did watch all 10 episodes on Friday, described by one critic as a delightful comedy that blends the wit of Will and Grace with the charm of the Golden Girls. When happy-go-lucky and occasionally dim-witted flight attendant Jerry, no relation, but think gay male Rose Nyland. When Jerry meets the closeted and about-to-be-married Mason on Fire Island, what happens next is not exactly the hookup that either of them had in mind, but instead a profound and unexpected conversation about faith and growing up gay in the church. How can you still be a part of it? Jerry asks. They hate us. Because they're human. And they're wrong, Mason replies, but it doesn't mean that he is. It all seems kind of like a fairy tale now, Jerry admits. If it is, it's a pretty good one, Mason confesses. That there's something up there that loves us and believes in us. That everything can be forgiven and fixed. Every day you get to start over and do it better. It's a pretty nice universe to believe in. Grace in the most unexpected places. No thanks to modern Bible translators and editors, we've been taught to see this story as the prodigal son, the lavish, reckless, extravagant son. What if instead we could hear this story as the prodigal father? Here is a parent who doesn't hesitate for a moment before running towards their child and embracing them with a tender fatherly embrace and a strong motherly love. Here is a God who loves us and believes in us, who forgives all, who daily gives us the chance to start again. Lavish, reckless, extravagant, prodigal grace.